Tatsuki Fujimoto, the mysterious name in the modern scene of shonen manga, the creator of brilliantly crazy stories like Fire Punch or Chainsaw Man, which practically defined nowadays shonen and revolutionized the scene as a whole. In the old days, we followed stories of heroes who were representatives of an ideal person with the right morals and attitude, but this creator brought with himself heroes who are complete scumbags without a drop of a fair attitude. Exemplars of total madness who were just trying to survive in the ruined society at the bottom of the social ladder. Denji, the main protagonist in Chainsaw Man, has no problem stumbling your legs and constantly kicking out your balls until you're totally done. He had to survive with no money. He just appreciates the easiest things like warm food, which is the total matter of course for normal people. And we follow his story and his overall growth of him as a person. He is really far from normal life, but throughout the story his growth is actually obvious. And Fujimoto has an obvious reason why he does this. I wanted to do something very different from classic shonens, the author says, but then disproves. The fact that my characters have really low ambitions is not related to the desire to break the codes of shonen. When you look at the current young generation, they are kinda like that. They are looking to live a simple way day by day, they are not looking for a really high salary. Confirms that's why I created the character of Denji, whose ambition is extremely mediocre. It's really interesting to listen to his point of view on the nowadays hero definition, but he is personally not trying to revolutionize manga. He is not seeking praise or popularity. He actually doesn't want to show his face. He says it's mostly because of fear of being killed. He received some death threats and says some extremely sensitive fans often react very badly if a character they love suffers terrible things. And honestly, he actually pushes his characters through absolute hell. They suffer. But the reasons why it's interesting to follow Fujimoto's vision and point of view are particularly different. He stands out. Like, completely. His work is, by his words, inspired by how he feels. And even though his stories are related to his everyday life, he feels like he has two characters who represent two complementary facets of its personality. And this also clearly affects his creation. If a story doesn't have two complementary elements, it can't hold up. Then continues, every work needs these two aspects, a funny side and a serious side. It has to entertain, but not become delusional entertainment. Not especially when it's the creator's whole life. And nowadays, Fujimoto isn't the only creator who does his work this way. Today, I wanna mostly talk about a young blood of modern shonens. When it comes to this topic, I can imagine no one other than rising star Yukinobu Tatsu and his new manga Dandadan. It's a brand new manga that came out just a few months ago, but it's already successful. But his story starts at Fujimoto. He is his former assistant who was working on Fire Punch or Chainsaw Man 2. And this Fujimoto's affection is obvious in his work, but he brought something different, something that actually amazes me, and I will talk about it later in the video. I'm actually kinda surprised this kind of amazingness can work that well. And the answer to how much random this thing is just yes. To make you sure, just imagine how our main protagonists are trying to convince each other about the existence of an entity they believe in, but instead of finding out nothing like spirits or aliens exist, they find out both entities exist and both of them were wrong. But then they meet the most threatening spirit called Turbo Granny. Then it steals the main protagonist's balls and he acquires Turbo Granny's powers. His classmate, truculent but sweet Momo Ayase, meets aliens who try to seduce her using their robotic gear to make her a descendant and get her tremendous powers. But she resists them, and thanks to her spirit powers, they snap all the aliens' genitals and our main protagonists win the fight. I know what you're thinking right now, and you might get a feeling I just spoiled you so much from the story, but don't be wrong. All of this happened just in 15 to 20 pages of the first chapter. Seriously. Don't you think it's just a collection of super random things that don't make sense? But don't convince yourself, behind this random shit is a lot of creativity and all these events, powers and I would say lore makes sense. And it doesn't bother the rules of this world, really. That's why I fell in love with Dandadan at first sight. Would you even believe it's a romance story? And the romance displayed in this manga is super cute, natural, and all these character moments are so satisfying to watch. Because of that, you can follow a serious character development which is made super great. Not even other characters are static. All of them follow their story and pushes characters ahead. And in combination with unimaginable creativity behind all events, creatures or powers even related to real Japanese cultural facts, makes this story truly a top tier. But his long way to this day was difficult. He struggled a lot, not just in his constant failures, but even mentally. He was not famous or popular, and the only recognition he got was for his connection to Fujimoto or Yuji Kaku, who made Hell's Paradise. He started his work on series like Fireball in Monthly Shonen magazine and was trying to get serialized, but it was extremely short-lived. Then he met his assistant, Shihei Rin. They together decided on really important questions of their creation. I would even say he was a lot more than just assistant in his career. He was able to figure out his mental and his struggles and found a solution. They reached their success together, and until this point, Tatsu was not clearly able to get somewhere. I basically want to give him some praise, because without this important man, only God knows where would Tatsu be alone nowadays. Every successful thing they created is only because of their mutual cooperation. This was a really important moment in his career. This man had a considerable affection in his future days. Shihei made him participate in the Jump Plus festival with Yamada Kiki Ipatsu, which is one-shot manga that got some recognition, but he didn't end up being serialized. He already failed a couple of times, so he tried something different. His artwork was absolutely breathtaking, so he tried to make a number of series with robots, beasts, and reanimated corpses. But nothing led to serialization, and he started to be pretty tired. Nothing that he has ever done got him somewhere. His only strong thing on him is Fujimoto and his manga. When Tatsu presents his work to the editor, he makes the storyboards using cuts that show worldview first. It actually helps him to tell the character's personality and story to his editor just from these images. But no matter how amazing his art was, he got into a really difficult state. He was going through artist's block and he had no intention of drawing anymore. He eventually gave up, but then Shihei came to him and asked him something like, "When did you draw freely without thinking anything like a story last time, huh?" Tatsu had a serious issue expressing himself when he is put under some restrictions. Especially after all these failures in serialization, he just forgot how to draw without a story. He just always overfilled his head with thoughts about the story. Shihei's idea to give Tatsu a chance to go back to what he likes paid out, and together started to use technique called logline. It's a script writing technique when you describe the script in just one sentence. They scrambled a lot of ideas through their notes until they found this occult theme movie thing. He basically figured out some characters and just played with them on the paper. He was just drawing what he liked and what he wanted to do. With the spiritual occult theme idea, he could pull out amazing art and all kinds of crazy scenes. He got over his art block because all these story restrictions vanished and they made everything throughout their art creation. Later they figured out ideas about power systems, characters' personalities and motivations. Just an elementary plot of the story was missing. But why did they decide to go this way? It was mostly because it seemed for them like ridiculous in a good way. But Tatsu didn't see the horror genre as anyone else. He says when a mistake is made to express fear, it could become funny. But that's exactly what he wanted to do. In his words, the similarity with Juji Ito's Tommy is too scary for him and doesn't like this. So he wanted to give a fun twist with ghosts and spirits, making them a lot more funny than scary. And yeah, it's mostly because he is Milksop himself. So the first scratches and vision of Dandadan were about to be born. His idea was to include the scariest creatures such as aliens, so-called yokai or spirits or unidentified mysterious animals. This gave him the freedom in drawing he needed, and goddamn, he went totally all out with the manga. And all of this led to all totally crazy, ridiculous, but also creative and smart ideas ideas in these creatures' designs. And he made sure to make a breathtaking drawing, a funny and entertaining story, and a little more experimental and catching worldview. All kinds of crazy stuff you would never be able to imagine came out, and I totally love this. And really, this is something you would never be able to see elsewhere. But they decided to switch to Jump Plus, and it paid out because they don't care about the number of pages, and it gave them a chance to unfold Dandadan at their own pace. Chapter 1 came out, and it was the exact reflection of what Yukinobu Tatsu was thinking about at the time. And Shihei was so certain it would blow up, but they needed to overcome one more obstacle. Until chapter 3, they didn't have a concrete plot. All that they had was the thing like, this led to this, so they started that, and then it would be solved. And hey, it's so obvious throughout reading these first chapters. But the obvious issue is that you can ask, but what next? And they didn't have an answer. This is ideal for a really short storyline, but not for manga series. Of course, this manga has some issues, but I can overcome them because the storytelling is really great. It has a great tempo, the romance gives it something wholesome even though you can write it better. And these ideas in worldview and power systems are just remarkable. It made me see something I would never think of when it comes to the shonen genre. It's a lot more entertaining than the traditional game of being hero and the characters growth from nothing. The main characters in this manga are not like this. They are not seeking any title, praise, or saving the world and being the most powerful. They ended up here by accident, and that made their adventure through spiritual and paranormal side of the world, including Japanese traditions, which makes them cooperate, learn, and become closer to each other. I think all of this fits perfectly together, and I want you to give it a chance. Read it and show me your impressions in the comments below. The story of Yukinobu Tatsu was long and difficult. For a long time, everybody recognized him just because of Fujimoto. But if his influence led to Born of Dandadan in a lot of things similar to Fujimoto's manga, but with its own unique and breathtaking vibe, I think every failure in the past paid out. Maybe if he succeeded at the start, he wouldn't ever change his attitude of drawing, and Dandadan would never come up even as an idea. Today, it was again a lot more beautiful than negative, so I'm maybe thinking about criticizing some story next. Anyway, thank you for watching, I would deeply appreciate your attention in the future. Please subscribe to my channel for more, and I'm gonna go pick some break in this anime season. See you in the next video.